let's go ahead and get couple things done. There's no additions to the agenda. So let's review and approve the minutes of August 6th.
I move to approve them.
All right, first and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes of August 6th, say aye.
Aye.
All those against? And I'll abstain because I wasn't here. We have 4 warrants to approve. Warrant 4, 4P, 4R, and Rec Board 1.
I'll make a motion that we approve payments of warrants 4, 4P, 4R, and Recreation Board 1.
I'll second it.
So the 4 warrants, the 4R is a MVP health payment of $818 for town employees. RB1 is for Rec Board. It's $1,300 for goals for the soccer field. That comes out of their allocated funds. 4P is payroll, $11,846, which is about as normal. And 4 is shockingly low, which is general expenses, which is $9,966. Any further discussions? All right, all those in favor of approving warrant 4, 4P, 4R, and Rec Board 1, say aye.
Aye.
All those against? All right. So we're going to adjust a little bit to the agenda. We're down to new business. So we have the community center is not here. I don't think they got noticed, but that's okay because we're not going to make any decisions right now. And the Lydia Taft Pratt Library Board of Trustees are here. So
could we make sure that it just says 2 of us because we didn't warn a meeting and there's not
we don't have a quorum.
We don't have a quorum here.
yeah, yes, that's fine. Yeah. The quorum's here.
The quorum, you're the quorum.
So,
we don't want to get in trouble. We can get in trouble all by ourselves.
It happens, same thing with me. I'm like, am I in trouble? So you can come up here and talk if you want. I mean, we have the email from Catherine of the Friends, and we have your email.
I'm sorry, what email from Catherine?
Basically, I think her email was describing an event, right?
Yeah, she emailed me about an issue with a double booking problem with an event last
Same
week.
idea, couldn't get hold of Randy, couldn't get hold of GCC.
Okay,
They
got it.
managed to sort it out, but they're running into the same problems. I've run into the same problems. So, this is a little bit of a carryover from last year's lease and everything else. And, we talked about last year that maybe there needs to be something changed moving forward. So, before I walk through this, and again, this is just this is a raw idea. What do you all envision happening? Or what would you like to happen?
Well, we'd like either, in my mind, and I can only speak really for myself, though the board did discuss it in our August meeting, and I guess I should step back. The board does not feel like we have we don't have 5 members, so we don't feel like we can take over like the maintenance of the building, the property. We don't have enough information, and we don't have enough time among the 5 of us. But what we would like is, Catherine had said that there are possibly some community members. Is this in the email that she sent you maybe? Yeah. Possibly some community members that might be interested in really taking on sort of the building portion and working with the library. And I feel like the library trustees would be very willing to meet with those people as a group, maybe even as part of every one of the library meetings. The first hour is devoted to building schedules, whatever's happening there, and then we move into just library specific topics.
Just as treasurer of the Friends, I am sort of curious what was in Catherine's email, because I know we've talked about it, and and Christy's been in on the conversation too. And like in terms of like fully taking over DCC, we're not really sure about like that sort of situation was where I was understanding, but like we're looking at some of the programs and some of the things that need to be done, like scheduling and stuff like that. And I know we're starting to think about like how we could possibly pick up on that sort of stuff.
Which would include, though, hiring a cleaner, which it hadn't been cleaned until last month when we I have to say, has been pretty embarrassing to have a lot of young children and young families in there and filthy
Right.
bathrooms. And it's just, I've gone in twice now just to check, and it was not good.
Right.
So, taking over the cleaning, it would be somebody, this group of people that Catherine said that she had spoken with that might be interested. Things like that we would work with this small group.
But the finances is what's giving us, or giving me pause, because I recall, Tom, you said something about how the rent was covering all the operating expenses?
Yeah, at one of the joint meetings, I asked the community center, I said, what is your budget? And they didn't know exactly, and I said, like, how much would you estimate? And it was almost exactly what you guys pay in rent.
I don't think that's correct, because when I first met with them, when I first joined the library trustees, they showed me an invoice for the heating oil that was $9,000. We don't pay that much in rent, so I'm not really sure financially. And without really taking a good look at their operating expenses and how they actually function, I don't think we as the library trustees can work that into our budget.
Right.
Well, I appreciate that we're not going to make a decision tonight. I appreciate hearing that, because I feel like there are a lot of issues that could still be ironed out, and with the addition of the second room, we will be paying, I think it's $11,000 or maybe 11 and some this year, if we continue to pay rent to another organization. I have a counter proposal to this one. I didn't write it out. And like I said, over the next few weeks, I think there will be opportunity to have more discussion, and I could put together a more fully fledged proposal. But my proposal is that, and I have heard you say, Todd, that you think having two boards is complicating the matters. I think that there should be one larger board overseeing one larger organization. And so when I say a larger board, I mean that the people presently on the library board who don't want to be responsible for a building would not necessarily need to be, because there is at least 4 or 5 or 6 people that I know of who are excited to be part of a larger board and a larger organization. And those people have told me various roles that they're excited about potentially filling. Now, one of those people might be Catherine, who has said she is willing to take on the scheduling of that room. And Catherine actually might be a person who doesn't want to commit to being on a board, but is willing to commit to that role. But I know of at least 3 or 4 other people who would be willing to commit to being on a board. So if we decided that a better course would be for a larger board to oversee a larger organization, what I think would need to happen is that because our board has our board has 5 members is part of our bylaws. So it would have to be a bylaws change for the library to expand our board. I would also, and that would have to happen at town meeting, I would also recommend at that point that we shorten the terms, because one reason people don't want to volunteer to be on the library board is that it's a 5-year term, and that's a big commitment for people. So I think that we could do both of those things at town meeting, vote to expand our board and vote to change our terms. And in the meanwhile, we could be thinking about a new definition, right? I mean, it would be under the auspices of the library. Like, it's not unheard of for a library to have a building. And for all those libraries who have a building, dealing with the building one way or another is part of their responsibility. And one way of dealing with our building might be to have members on our board who say, yeah, I'm happy to be on top of dealing with the building. So what I think dealing with the building means is that, number one, the $11,000 that we would not be paying in rent could go towards heat and electricity. I believe the other bills that the community center was paying is for mowing and for cleaning. And it's true, we haven't seen those records. So if there are other expenses, we don't know about them. But I would say that the folks who've been managing the community center these last few years, somehow they have managed or they have not managed and not paid their bills. I don't think that we could be any worse than that. I think we could do a whole lot better. I think we are already providing community programming. We are serving as a community center in that way. We've had someone who is volunteer to oversee the scheduling of the building. We have lots of people who have stepped up with really great ideas for how they'd like to move forward. I have one person, I mean, this is really early, but he has a whole idea about setting up, for example, a maker's market and a farmer's market, which he believes would be self-sustaining and actually would bring some money into the larger organization. And like, there's tons of really great ideas. There's no end to the ideas about what could be going on in that space and how to maintain it. So that would be my recommendation, is that we think about what it might be like if we had an expanded board with responsibility for the library and the building, and that we had one organization managing, and that we weren't in this situation where we have to pay rent to another organization.
All right. So all of those are things that also I considered very similar. And again, this is a starting point. So whatever's going to happen is going to take some time, right? Things have to be adjusted. Leases have to be done. Things have to be figured out. So like a to-do list that would go along with your suggestions and which align pretty much with what this says will take time.
Yeah.
You know, somebody's going to have to get together with the Dummerston Community Center and go, I need to see the yearly expenses. I need a rundown of what does it cost. For us on this side, because again, the idea being is the rent would just transition to a fund that pays electricity, the mowing, definitely for the plowing, the cleaning,
The insurance.
the insurance,
The heating.
the heating, all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, the current agreement is there's a lease with the Dummerston Community Center board. I don't know we need to expand the board of trustee. I don't in the future see any different role for the board of trustees. You're still in charge of the day-to-day operations. You know, that you work for them. You submit the budget exactly as you do now, less the rent, right? You just take the rent out of your budget because the rent, we're not going to do the pay through if we move forward with this idea or an idea similar to this. And then since the Dummerston Community Center was a nonprofit, Lydia's Friends is also a nonprofit, right? So transitioning the lease to another nonprofit who would then hire the cleaner, hire a lawnmower.
How would the lease transfer happen though? Would we just take over?
We would just end the lease. It can be ended at any time.
And then we renegotiate a new lease between
That's right.
our group and
Right.
and the town.
And what you would do is that
Do we get the legacy rent pricing out of that? Do we get to pay $1?
so let's just assume for now that the $11,800 or whatever the total is for the year would be in a fund that would pay. So Lydia's Friends would say, here's a bill for heating oil. Here's a bill to pay the cleaners. Here's a bill to pay insurance. And just like everything else that works in this town, you would just let Chris know. He would issue us a warrant. We would pay the bill. right? So all you're doing, that group, and it's labeled actually here is as, she didn't put it at the top. The library community center, essentially it becomes the library community center. If you want to call it Lydia, Taft, Pratt Library Community Center, that's fine. It becomes one entity where the elected board of trustees is still doing exactly what they're doing. We're just bringing in another entity that works with you, that's a nonprofit, to do the building side of it. And that includes the scheduling, the fundraising, the events, letting us know when bills need to be paid, etc.
Can you explain why that's better than the way I laid it out?
Well, it saves a little bit of time because we don't need to wait to town meeting. We don't need to expand the board of trustees. We don't need to have more elected officials and more volunteers. I mean, we could shorten the terms of the board of trustees seats, right? 5 years now to something else. But I don't know if you would get more people or not.
I mean, I don't.
And actually, real quick, I imagine this new library community center board is made up of not specifically them, they're just filling the role of the building side of it. You guys are filling the role of the library side of it. I think that as a volunteer board, or whatever you want to call it, could include 2 or 3 people from you, 2 or 3 people from you, and you have a created board that has the building and the library all as one. And it doesn't change the bylaws that the board of trustees has, and doesn't really change anything aside from getting rid of the rent throughput, and essentially you guys have control of the building.
So we wouldn't have to elect more people. The Lydia's friends people, who are all volunteers, would just join us and
work
with
like you
us.
say, probably have meetings together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would handle your specific allocated bylaw stuff. They would be there to help out with. You guys like, hey, so essentially the trade-off is with the same budget, not guaranteed, that you have now, you guys would have you'd have the full 2 rooms up front.
The video of this is going to be on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I mean,
Keep going.
it sounds to me like what you're proposing is that the town would rent to Lydia's friends instead of renting to the Dummerston Community Center.
It's not really renting because there's going to be they're just going to oversee management of the building.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, I mean, first of all, Lydia's friends has their own mission. They have their own reason for existing, and they haven't agreed that they're interested in doing this. I mean, this is a very different mission from the one that they came together for in the first place. But second of all, I feel like what you're proposing is very different from what I proposed, in that it would still be 2 different organizations with 2 different legal identities.
Right.
And I'm not understanding what the benefit of that is.
This isn't necessarily the way it's going to go. But what I've heard from the board of trustees is they don't have the people or the space or the time to do it. So me just dumping it onto the elected board of trustees does not seem like an option now. If the board of trustees changes and says, if we had 8 people and 8 people volunteered to be elected and serve 3-year terms, and we brought people on board who would do this, manage the building, pay the bills or whatever, that's one thing. But that's not what they're saying right now, sitting in this room. And you guys are saying you don't want to necessarily do it all, but Catherine has said that there are people that would be willing to step in and do it.
And if I'm understanding, you're suggesting something that we could move forward over like the next couple of months, as opposed to waiting until March to get things to like expand.
Yeah, I think we have to. At some point, we're going to have to consider us here. The town has some expectation of the library / community center.
Sure.
Right? There was an agreement that the community center would be a community center and the library would be a library. So any real wholesale changes, we have to consider whether we need to talk to people in the town about it or have people come to a meeting and have a discussion about it. That's why it'll take a little while, but it wouldn't take till March.
Right.
And if we wait till March, again, there's no guarantee that 4 additional people are going to run, and we can't get people on boards now. So whatever hybrid comes out of this, I'm trying to figure out a way to make it where there's no lease agreement for rent, there's no sublease for rent, that there's not us giving you money that you're giving to the community center, and that we can get a little more, I'll call it vibrant, group of people working the community center, the rental of the room, the scheduling of the room, the calendar, all of those kind of things, because I don't think you want to do it. I don't think you guys want to do it right now. I mean, in a perfect world, if there were 10 board of trustees and everybody was assigned a task, that'd be great, but I don't see that happening, but it might. So this is just a starting idea that is similar to yours in adjusting for the rent, although you want a larger board of trustees. I want to bring Lydia's friends in who've somewhat volunteered and said, hey, I think we have some people who could do some work here. Because they have people that can come and go from that organization just at will. And we're only asking them to schedule the events, if they want to oversee fundraising or whatever, who does, I don't know who does the book sale. The other thing that is a concern, and Maria will have more background on this, is if the building needs a new roof.
And I was going to raise that issue.
Right. So the capital thing becomes a problem, and this becomes a town issue, right?
That's right.
So I believe 30 years ago, or whenever, guesstimate, when this happened, they wanted to sell the building. And the only reason the building was not sold was because the DCC stepped up and said, we will maintain this building. We'll pay the bills. We'll get rent from the library. We'll do fundraisers. We'll have the cribbage club, whatever. And we will take care of this, and the town will not be on the hook for anything. So if we just transition the current budget, it'll keep things running. There'll be library people in charge of, right? But what's going to happen when you need $10,000? Let's say you decide to put mini splits in, or you need new windows, or whatever. Right? Where's that money going to come from? Right.
So can I ask them, talking about budget, so let's think for next year, we're creating a budget. Instead of a rent line, would we put in a heating line, or an electricity line, insurance line, and maybe put in a line to start building that capital fund that you're...
I don't know. That's a good question. I want to keep it to one page. But the things that have to be done, since we would have a fund, the rent money in a fund that's being paid when it needs to be paid, how we do that, I mean, essentially we'd have to figure out how to do it.
Does anybody here know who on the community center would be the person to go to for the books and the funds and that back catalog of information?
Paul used to be the treasurer.
Right. I think to get good details, Paul Chat, I mean, he's not on the board anymore.
But he was the one who was doing it.
But I think previous to the last year, I would say, or 18 months, he would have insight into that. Randy might, but I would think Paul would be the one, because the board has been so coming and going in the last year.
And it sounds like they've really just dwindled down to the two people.
And that's that would be one of the things on a to-do list, whether we decide, it's like, we need to know, is in fact that rent covering the operating expenses? Because that checks one box going, right, we can do, obviously those things go up every year, electricity gets more expensive, so we'd have to adjust accordingly. But the building itself, the thing about the building is, whether you lease it to somebody or not, the town still owns it. So I'm not saying the town's going to pay $30,000 to re-roof it if it has to be re-roofed. But the fact of the matter is we own the building. So that whole thing has to be sorted out. So those are all the messes that have to be untangled before we do anything.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. That one of the first things I think we would want to look into is how to establish a capital fund in case that happens. And regardless of which model we ended up going with, I think whoever it was that stepped up to be the building committee would have to understand that fundraising was part of that responsibility. I have not seen that the community center has done a whole lot of that in the last 5 years. I know that years ago they were more active in doing more things, but everyone I've been talking to about this project understands that that's a big piece of it. So I just wanted to say that. But something I did have a question about is, and I don't know if this is a thing we can potentially resolve tonight, is that right now we are paying two different leases for two different rooms on the building, and one of them is up the end of September, and one of them is up the end of December. And I hear you talking about a proposal in which we would no longer be on a lease to the Dummerston Community Center. And so my question is, like, what's going to happen as far as that, and then over the next 3-4 months, and what has to happen in order to make this transition from we're on a lease to the Dummerston Community Center?
I don't know, right? So, so you all have the money in your budget to pay the lease currently, right? It's been allocated to you guys.
That's right.
So we have to figure out what the process would be to just say, that's not going to the community center anymore. That's staying in a pot of money. I mean, clearly there's an issue with just the lawnmower person hasn't been paid. The building's not getting cleaned. I had to run down whether the building insurance had been paid, couldn't do it, which needs to be paid. And fortunately I got hold of the insurance company, goes, no, I think it's been paid. I'm like, okay, well, you're telling me you think it's been paid. There's more information than I'm getting anywhere else. So all of those things need to be remedied first. I mean, those are kind of emergency situations.
Question about the insurance. I thought, and I could be wrong about this, I thought that the town paid the insurance, and I assumed that community center was paying back the town. Is that not how that worked?
We, in my 2.5 years here, have never paid insurance on the building. I think it goes through the community center. We get notice as the owner of the building. We get notice from insurance companies like, your building that you own has insurance that's expiring. So all of that needs to, and there may be something where we have to find a caretaker to make sure that the cleaning's getting done, that the bills are getting paid, and all of those things, so that the building can continue to be used as it's supposed to be used, so that the kids aren't showing up and the public's not there and it's dirty. So whatever's happened there, that has to be remedied almost first as we work through all this stuff. But I mean, it's middle of August 20th? It's gonna be a couple months before this gets, so, I would suggest that more ideas, read what's in here. The fundraising thing is listed in here as, any improvements that need to be done should be done through fundraising. I didn't want to put in major or big or small because then that's like it's arbitrary. The idea being is that if suddenly the library community center decided they wanted to put mini splits in the 2 library rooms to make them more efficient or whatever, have a fundraiser. Or have fundraisers over the years to build up that pile of money, which is sort of what we asked the fire department to do. It's going to be a hard sell to go to the town to build additional capital funds for the building, because the agreement was that we weren't going to do that years ago, but that's a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
So things can change. But that's something to consider, that if there's going to be $5,000 a year put into a capital fund, and we are at a nice breaking point that a lot of stuff was done with ARPA money. So a lot of the stuff in the building overall, I think the structure is in pretty good shape, and I think it was painted not long ago that town also paid for. So those are, let's come back with this in 2 weeks. Let's talk about it. I'll come up with what I consider a to-do list, regardless of what we come up with, things that have to happen. And I'll reach out to Paul Chapman and see if he can provide some insight into costs. Because my goal, obviously, is, the pay and inflation, these things happen. Like, pay is going to go up, whatever the cost of living is. Inflation is going to cost of living. But my goal is to keep the number at the number. So however they've been meeting their fuel purchase prices and paying everything else, it'd be nice to know.
Yeah.
Right. Now there might be an opportunity for group purchasing, right? Because you're buying heating oil and fuel for the town buildings, and so a discount may be able to be applied if you encompass the other building.
Right.
Yeah,
You can't get
things like
discounts
that.
on anything.
What?
No, but fuel oil probably can't. Diesel we can't. But fuel oil, I don't know how it works with.
Yeah.
Pre-buy.
Well, we haven't talked so far yet about the income that comes in from rentals. That's probably that's definitely how the community center is being kept afloat.
Right, so it's covered a little bit in here, when you're through, and again, this isn't perfect, that any of that income, so we paid $300 to the community center to use the cribbage for 10 nights, 10 Monday nights. So that money that comes in would just go into the town, the fund that has the rent in it.
Yeah.
It's used for expenses. I know the Conservation Commission holds events there, and they just take donations and they split it with the community center. They give half of it to Randy and half of it they keep. So any of that type of stuff, the vision to be is any of that stuff just goes into the fund.
Right.
And at the end of the year, if we know that we need $10,000 or $11,000 a year for operating expenses, to make sure that that money's there, and any additional money just continues to compound to be used for projects or anything else.
So this is a little less off of the fund, but it was just because Dina mentioned the children's room lease is up at the end of September. If this is taking time to move forward, is losing the children's library something that people have to worry about?
I think at this point for the space, since the space rent would in theory disappear, I mean, it would still be there, but it would just be in town funds as opposed to giving to you.
Well, I mean, because I'm understanding like this is stuff we're talking about for moving forward, but it's stuff that might not get done until like December or January. So like that's why is something like, and so if so that's where I'm kind of coming from, is in that time, if the lease is up at the end of September and the community center is still nowhere to be, is still MIA, like is losing the children's library something that we have to worry about, or is it just, we just like hope?
I think the money for this year has already been allocated.
Okay.
And the goal was to get to town meeting to discuss the additional rent.
Right.
And the assistant librarian. So you have money for the assistant librarian through when?
Through the
Through the grant
fiscal year.
end of September.
No,
we
we did it for the whole
following
fiscal
year.
year.
Right, but the grant covers through September and then the
And
town
then,
picked up
yeah,
on.
exactly.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And
Okay.
the plan was that you all would come to town meeting again
Yes.
with information to let everybody know this is how it's going. We'd like to continue this. We're asking essentially for the same amount of money that we asked for last year, although a little bit more because we have to
That
cover.
would be for 27.
For 27.
Yeah.
Right, but you're asking for 3 additional months of pay that was covered by the grant.
That's right.
And essentially 3 extra months of rent, but the rent would be, I mean, essentially, since you're not gonna put the rent number in, if we're imagining ourselves in March with something resolved,
Yeah.
the rent, the rent dollars will be in the budget. It just won't go to you, it'll just be sitting with the treasurer.
Right.
But
So the
instead
budget.
of calling it rent, can we just call it operating?
Oh, yeah, call it
Expenses.
Those dollars would be called operating expenses. for
The
library.
rent was only an issue when the community center wanted to collect rent. If there's no more community center collecting rent and threatening to take away our room if they don't get their rent, then I don't see why our room would be at risk.
I don't, it's not a promise, I don't envision any significant change happening between now and the end of the fiscal year. Because, in fact, the change that would happen is you can have the whole second room, right? And the big room just becomes the, you know, the moneymaker or the fundraiser or whatever.
And the room below it.
When the room below it, I
That's
mean,
what
I use the room below it because it's so hot this summer.
Yeah.
It was nice down there. So,
Kitchen space is the one I'm obsessed with personally.
the what is?
The kitchen space is what I'm obsessed with personally.
Right. Do you not want it to be a kitchen?
I love it. I love the fact there's a
Yeah.
big giant kitchen there. I really
So do
wish
I.
that kitchen was used more.
Right. So, you know, that's something. So, reset in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Again, with hopes and dreams, I'll try to get community center in here. I'll try to get Paul Chapman involved, see if we can find some data from him. He doesn't have to be here, but I'm sure he has access to the data to give us an idea of how much it's costing to run the building, the operating expenses, which would be the money just transferred to that. But essentially, the building would become some version of a library with a community space.
Yeah. But so we start up our budget conversations again in October, right? That
Right.
around this October timeframe.
Yeah, we start in October-ish, right? October, November, December, start meeting. Or November,
Usually.
December.
Yeah, usually you're
Yeah.
asking
September.
us. Yeah, you're usually asking for November.
Yeah.
So your budget plan, I would think, do the exact same thing you're doing
Okay.
and include the rent. We just don't know where it's gonna go, so for your purposes, because we can always just take the rent out and move it somewhere else.
Right, and I like Tom's idea
Yeah.
of operating expenses.
Library operating expenses would be a line item under library.
Right.
I mean, just for fun, I started trying to put together a budget for the whole organization, and in exactly what you said, instead of having a line for rent, there was a line for heat, and there was a line for electricity. We've
Right.
never had those lines in our budget before, and so I was trying to see like what it would look like and how much money could we have available for crazy things like heat and electricity,
Right.
you know, with just the budget that we have. But I think that in that scenario, like, we would have to really think through what the fundraising plan would be, because clearly there would need to be additional fundraising. And yeah, I mean, I would like to, you know, rather than it be like, well, maybe we'll get some money from the Conservation Commission and maybe somebody will want to have a birthday party. Like, I would want to have an actual fundraising plan on the rest of the building or on the rest of the expenses for running the building.
Yeah, I would, again, I envision that whatever this nebulous organization is going to be, however it's configured, is that somebody's doing scheduling, somebody's out beating bushes a little bit with fundraising ideas. I know Paul Adler does it for the auxiliary. It's like, hey, do you want a holiday party, or do you want to have a holiday art sale, or do you want to have whatever? You know, this is available for whatever it is, $100 a day or $25 an hour or whatever, and raise money that way, because that would be then used for the capital stuff. You know, again, imagining hopefully that nothing significant happens in the next year or two, you could build up some money.
And I'd like to see a formalized organization structure, which we'll probably have to figure out, because we do need to have someone who's responsible for these particular tasks, you know, running the building.
Mhm.
We already have a treasurer, but, you know, but other
Whatever
things.
that is right next to you.
Yeah, just kind of
Who's gonna do
formalize a structure so that somebody is like
Yeah.
responsible for
Like I said, it's something similar you're looking at, which
Yeah.
is you have a couple people, 3 people from Lydia's friends, and a couple of you in this
Yeah.
a group of 5. It's really just a single level. I'm trying to get rid of this multi-level situation.
Yeah.
I agree.
And you guys,
This is what it's called.
and those 5 meet before maybe the trustees meeting.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what we talked about. It's like, great, we're good to go. We know, we understand the library side, the building side's going, and it's just a continuous process where you're all meeting together, and the community center isn't necessarily separate. So I know this is very monopolized, but I don't know what the answer is going to be. So, and I don't think anybody else does. I think we, generally speaking, want it to work. Me, generally speaking, want to keep the dollars down, right? So, again, looking at the budget plus COLA and some inflation is sort of what we're working with here. And, you know, finding out something, you know, maybe from Paul Chapman will help to see. Anything else?
Is there like, I don't think Paul is gonna be able to produce the budget. You know, he might be able to produce some old bills or something, and I don't know who was doing it before Paul, but I don't think they'd be able to produce the budget either. But I feel like for the last 4 years or more, we've been going, well, we don't really know what it costs to run the community center, and we're not sure how much. Like, what is the definitive question that we need an answer to?
What are the expenses?
Well,
Like, just what are the expenses?
I'm happy to have.
Seems like
Who are the people that do the cleaning? What are fuel oil bills?
Excuse me, Paul Adler.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a budget plan.
Yeah. We definitely see, but I don't know if the community center though. That's what we're saying, because we have no insight into that, and so they don't follow our budget system. But what we want to, I mean, if obviously somebody could produce something, it's like, this is 2024 calendar year, and this is how much it costs us to run this place. That would be a reasonable starting point. I'd even take 2023, because we can adjust the fuel prices
Yeah.
to the current fuel prices. We could talk to people who do the mowing. We can talk to people who do the cleaning, go, how much does it cost for you guys to come in once a week or twice a week, whatever we decide to clean this for a year? Give us a number. And, you know, and I know some of the stuff, I think they did some of the cleaning themselves until they got a contractor.
So maybe the question is, Like, we've got this list: cleaning, fuel, electricity, lawn mowing, and insurance. Maybe the question for Paul is, are there other expenses?
Sure.
Like, what else?
Yep.
You know?
I'll ask him.
Maintenance of the building,
The what?
now,
You're breaking up. I'm turning you off. I'm not kidding.
maintenance, personnel.
Yep. Well, there's no person.
In a little bit extra in the budget for unhidden expenditures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
The
most of
window breaks or
I
something.
think most of the unhidden expenditures we're pretty much aware of because I think we've been paying for a lot of them, right? Like the painting, the roof, all the art.
Right.
So yeah, we'll try to get. We'll try our best to get a list. Because again, it's just like owning a house. So
But like, the thing is, you mentioned $9,000 in heating oil, because when I asked him, that's the main thing I wanted to find out at that meeting. It's like, well, we don't see it at the select board level what your cost and your budget is. Can you tell me? And when he estimated, I remember saying, like, I did the math. I was like, that's what our rent is. So it can't be that much.
He showed me the invoice.
Because that's crazy high.
When we first did our first round of rent negotiations for the big room, we didn't have the children's room yet. That was, I would say, last spring, when I first started meeting them and getting to know them for the first time. And he actually showed me an invoice for the oil heating that said 9,000 and change, yeah.
For just like a whole winter.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Because, the building's not properly insulated and the windows are huge and whatnot, yeah.
all right. So 2 weeks. Come back with hopes and dreams and to-do list.
Man, I'm all about the hopes and dreams. That's all I'm running on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, road department support is not here, and we've recognized visitors. Correspondence for information. I don't think there's anything in there of interest. I still want to clean that one out a little bit, but it's pretty good. Email correspondence, covered bridge trash. All right. So I think I would assume this is a recurring problem with summer trash. It's always
I would recommend that we put up a sign, you carry in, you carry out, like a state park. If not, we close it.
Listen, we have 2 signs up. One got stolen. So there are signs down there that says bring in, bring out. There's no trash ferry.
Then we close it for a week and let them suffer. You can't litter in another town when you're from New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut.
What if you're from Dummerston?
I don't see any Dummerston cars there.
I was there.
Tom was there.
I was there with my kid.
Tom was there littering.
No one's cleaning up. I didn't see it.
I'm serious. I mean, we cannot allow littering. And number 2, we can't afford a dumpster there that we're paying for.
Right.
It's absurd.
So what if there's a bunch of litter, we close it for a week and those people never come back that summer, and then you open it up a week later and they litter?
How much money do they deliver to the town? How much revenue are they delivering to the town?
No. Well, I don't know.
Just liking the town and goodwill and all.
I don't know how much they spend at the gas station over there.
Yeah, well.
So. All right. Yeah.
I just have a question. Was the trash up above or down below? By the river or up in the...
I think it's both.
Because I went a couple times last week. I didn't see anything anywhere. So
I think whoever sent us the email
often patrols it.
has
I picked up a garbage bag there.
Right.
A black garbage bag. I mean, one of the construction bags.
Right.
It is a problem.
Yeah. Well, that's why we got an email. Any other solutions aside from closing it? And the funniest thing is you can't actually close it because it'll just go down a different ramp.
Put it in the donation box there.
Yeah.
So right, it let's again. I've thought about it. I don't know the solution. It's the same problem they have up with the bigger one, right? It's on state land. It's a continuous problem with trash and things like that. And I don't know the answer to it. I don't know the closing it's the answer. Any other ideas?
Camera and fining them.
They'll steal the camera. It's like they steal the beer covered bridge.
Take cameras that you can't steal.
So they grease the pole.
Cameras. All right. I don't have an answer. I'll respond that we're thinking about it. Again, let's ponder options and see where we're at. Painting on East West Road appears, I was gone when it occurred. I think the road crew's already taken care of it. There were 2 of them. Is that right?
Yeah.
Based on what we just heard?
Mhm.
Which is what I thought. I emailed Leah. I didn't realize he was going to be gone a week and a half.
Well, we may also contact the EPA.
For the beach?
Environmental Protection Agency. I mean, you can't be littering a stream.
Well, we don't have to go to the EPA. You just go to the state. I mean, they own the water. So. All right. Let's talk this line of credit. So Maria got an email from VLCT, so we'll go to Plan B, which we won't use general funds. We'll use the line of credit. So the reason the line of credit's not $300,000 is because we're going to pay $100,000, get the money back. Pay $100,000, get the money back. Pay $100,000, get the money back. So we're never going to go over the $200,000. So we don't need $300,000.
There's a definite guarantee that we'll get the money back right away?
Well, what do you consider a definite guarantee?
Well, like
the state guys, I've asked them half a dozen times, like, do you have the money in your coffers? It's not sitting in the national. They're like, we have the money in our office in the state of Vermont. And they said it should be no more than 5 business days from when you send us the receipt, we'll give you the money back. So, and that's as much as I can ask them.
Yeah. And we're not going to get another $100,000 bill before that would happen.
No.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, because the project's gonna, the goal of the way the project will work is that the state will be there inspecting the project as it goes. And when a third of the project's been done and it's been done correctly, they'll let us know, and we'll pay a third of the payment, and then we won't pay another third until they tell us that the second and it's not specific thirds, because the riprap, the clearing is 25% of the bill, the riprap is 50% of the bill, or 60% of the bill ish, and the live stakes is the last chunk of the bill.
So it's broken up into thirds.
The payment will be, it's broken up into, the project's broken up into 3 parts, but each part, the riprap's probably more like $175,000. So they get paid halfway through the riprap.
And then the last half of the riprap and the live stakes would be the third payment. So I'm pretty confident that the state will know that the project's going well. And they've worked with Bazin Brothers before, so this isn't an unknown entity. They all know each other. They know the quality of the work, so they have no concern that it's not going to be done correctly. So we'll never even get to the 200,000 part. It's going to be 100 off, 100 off, 100 off, and be done. I will draw up a separate contract. I have Bob, because we're still waiting to do this, to have the landowners pay any interest, which shouldn't be more than $100 each shot if it's 5 days.
Mm.
They say we can use the TNA funding to pay the attorney.
What's TNA?
Technical assistance money. There's additional administrative money set aside, and they said you can use that to pay the attorney for drawing up the contract.
That's over the 301,000?
Yes, that's over the 300. And there's actually, funny enough, they allocated something like $600,000 for Dummerston, because remember there were 3 projects at the beginning? Mm-hmm. All of that money's still sitting there. Not that they would use it for this one. So we should be able to cover the attorney through their money, the interest through the landowner, and then we'll just pay in cycles and they'll reimburse us. That's the goal. And I think that's all I know.
So what if the state doesn't pay as quickly as they say they will, and we get to that last 100,000,
right?
Does it not get paid, and we don't take it out of can't take it out of the?
Well, so the maximum's 301,000.
Right.
So we'd be $1,000 short, I guess. I don't.
Well, that's assuming that you got the first 200,000
back
paid. Yes.
Right.
So that could essentially, though I see it, it could leave $101,000.
Sure. If they haven't paid the first part and the second part.
Right.
That's true.
And what do we do at that point? I mean, you go back to a line of credit.
I don't know. I mean, obviously that's not an impossibility. If we don't get the first payment back in 5 days, then we go back to the state and go, listen, you said we can't, we've set this aside to do the $100,000 payments. So we would know long before the second one is due that it hasn't shown up.
How long should they be spread out? Like roughly, I don't know the timeline.
Probably a month, 6 weeks.
They've started already, correct?
They moved machinery down there. He's like, when can we start? I'm like, when everything's in order. Anything that he wants to do anything he does now is not covered by anybody. So until the contract's in place, any work he does is not reimbursable.
It's on his.
Yeah, I know, because he's like, he had an opening, so he moved some equipment down there. And he asked, and I'm like, until we have all this lined up, But he
sounds like, sorry.
Go ahead.
The worst case scenario, if what everybody's saying happened, we would have to call a special town meeting to approve, and we have to explain it to everybody to immediately
That
pay
takes
something.
at least 30 days.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, and okay, so
Or
that's
we go to Bazin Brothers and say, here's the situation, the
Yeah.
money's coming, it hasn't come yet. And they're like, that's fine, we know, you've paid us $200 so far. We understand the money's there. And they just say, when you get it, that's fine. Which is an easier option to take out of general funds.
Okay.
Why wouldn't we just take the line of credit for the cost of the project, and then it's a line of credit, we're only gonna draw on it when we need it.
Right.
It's not a loan, I mean, it is a loan, but it's a line of credit that we draw on,
And then you pay it off.
and then you pay it back.
So the line of credit going to $300,000, $302,000 is simply to cover if the first two payments don't show up again.
Right. But the paperwork is written for $200,000,
Right.
correct?
Yep. Because the goal was, based on what we know, again, is to pay in chunks and the money's gonna be back.
Right.
So we have a couple of options. We can have them redo for $300,000, see if they'll do it. I don't know if they will or not. Or see what happens with the first line, the first $100,000, and then go to them and go, we need another 100 because they haven't paid us back. So I guess it just depends on whether we think the state is going to refund the money within a week. I mean, that's really the question.
Yeah.
And or if Bazin Brothers has been paid 2/3 of it and the state is being held up, if they're willing to wait a couple of weeks for it to clear out.
Yeah, I thought how it worked was we had to pay Bazin Brothers before we could even submit it to the state.
That's right. So we pay them the first $100,000 and then send fax that paperwork to the state on whatever day that is. We'll say Tuesday. And what they're telling me is they're going to have that money back to us within 5 business days, back into our account. So
Right, so we're gonna pull 100,000 out of the line of credit.
Yep.
Maybe get it in 5 days.
Say a week.
Believe it when I see it.
Sure.
So then the next 100's gonna come
Yep.
due, we pay them.
Yep.
Take another 100 out of the line of credit.
Line of credit, after they pay us, it's back at 0. Because we take
Right. You put the money back in.
Right. So the second time, when we get the second bill, the line of credit's still should have 200,000 available. So at no point should we go over 200,000 unless
Unless the state doesn't
the
reimburse
state
it.
is reimbursed.
Yeah.
So that's why the question is, we can reapply for 300,000 if you want to do that to be safe, or we can wait and see how the first payment goes.
Or
Or
then you're committed
Mhm.
one way or another. So.
Right.
Or you tell Bazin they can't do anymore.
Mhm.
You know. So.
right.
And is there more than one person at the state that has told you to get the money back?
Yep.
Okay, because that's, if something happened, he just walked off the job. And
Yeah, that's right.
It's his word.
Yes,
and-
because it's swapped over because one guy retired and a new guy, so it's been asked a number of times, and I'll ask again. So that's where we're at. So we can vote on what you want to do. That's why we're here. Except for Paul, I'll mute him. So does somebody want to make a motion on what they want to vote on?
I'll make a motion to redo the line of credit for $301,000.
All right.
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion on that? Paul, you got anything you want to add? Tom? You're on mute, Paul. You're still on mute. Paul, you're on mute. You can't hear me. There you go.
There we go. I think we should go with it and see what happens after the first payment. And then we can make a decision.
All right.
Yeah.
Should say at which point you're committed to the project, invariably so.
Right. Tom, you have any input on it?
No.
All right.
Good.
Okay, so the motion is, I have to formate this question in my mind.
Redo the line of credit.
The motion is to reach the line of credit for $302,000, whatever the number is, instead of $200,000, so that we have the full amount available if the state doesn't reimburse us in time. So all those in favor of redoing the line of credit for $302,000, say aye.
Aye.
All right, all those against? I say no, Paul says no, so we'll redo it for $302,000. All right?
If the bank
Is that
won't go
how
with
Paul
that.
actually voted?
Paul, did you actually vote? He said nay, yeah.
Okay.
I said nay.
Yeah,
Okay.
gotcha. All right. Chris.
Is he still on?
Yeah. Well, he's probably watching a Yankees game.
I'm here.
So did you hear that?
I did.
I'll come in tomorrow and we'll talk about it. Are you in?
I have a couple of thoughts.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
Well, there is a timeline as to how far construction can go before the state shuts it down for water quality, winter stuff, that kind of thing.
Yep.
We did ask him about that because I heard October. Bazin Brothers was not going to start originally until September. The only reason they're chomping at the bit right now is they had an opening in their schedule. I don't know what they were doing. So as it is, they weren't planning on starting until September, and Scott Jensen was there. And I believe what he said is, as long as you're a certain point along the project, you'd be fine to get done.
So I think
how long is the bank going to take to extend this line of credit? I have no idea.
That's what we're going to find out. Yep.
So there's a lot of unknowns here.
There are.
So yeah, I'll come in tomorrow and we'll talk about the unknowns, and we'll draft an email to the bank, explain to them why we're doing it, and that we still feel the process is going to be the same. We just want to make sure we don't get caught out not having that extra $100,000 if Bazin Brothers finishes and we have to pay them.
Rolling the dice. Yeah, it is.
I love Yahtzee. All right, so that's covered. The contract is on hold until we get this in order. Although Bob Fisher's working on it, so he'll have the shell of it ready to go. It won't be that in-depth of a contract because we don't have to have 25% from the landowner. There's a lot of things that this program used to have, but with 100% payment, it's a little different. So I'll work with him on that. Town health officer position. We want to go ahead and vote on that. So I'll make a motion. We approve Sephra Leisure, I think is how you say it, as the new town health officer.
I'll second
it.
Second it. All right. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of appointing Sephra Leisure as the town health officer, say aye. Aye. All right. I will send her an email. The Windham Regional Rep will try to get here next meeting. Probably the same situation. I'll put them on the agenda. I don't know what appointment to open seat is. That seems very blank.
That was the
Oh, that's what
health
those
officer, yeah.
Okay. And Maria will now do her Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah. Let's see, I'll make a motion that we recess the meeting and convene as the Liquor Control Board.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor of convening as the Liquor Control Board, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, so we're approving a catering permit for Next Stage Arts, who's going to have an event at Scott Farm on 1 September from 2 to 6 p.m. Any discussion on that?
I'll make a motion that we approve the catering permit application from Next Stage Arts for an event at the Scott Farm on September 1st, 2 to 6 p.m.
I'll second.
Got a second? Okay. All those in favor of approving the catering permit for Next Stage Arts, say aye. Aye. And all those against? That is done.
So I'll make a motion that we adjourn as the Liquor Control Board and reconvene the meeting.
And I'll second that. Do we have to vote on that one?
Yep.
Who wants to reconvene as the regular meeting? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Who's against? All right. So to-do list, we'll put on the agenda to bring back the DCC and the library next meeting. I'll talk to Paul Chapman, see what he can give us. I'll talk to Sephra, let her know she's been appointed. We should have one set of meeting minutes to sign, which will just be me. 4 warrants. And I will come in tomorrow and talk to Chris about the line of credit.
I'd like to add one other thing, and that's animal control reports.
All right, what do you got?
Nothing as of yet, but I'm hoping.
Okay.
I have something to report on.
If we do
hear back from the bank in the next day or two, and they're like, fine, 300K's fine, we may call a special meeting Monday to approve that so they can get working on this project. So just keep your eyes out for that, but we'll email everybody and let them know. That'll be a 10-minute meeting. Anything else anyone wants to bring up? The next meeting is 2 weeks from today on the 3rd of September. Have ideas about the trash? We already have your idea, Paul. If you come up with something more civilized, I'm just kidding. Let me know. So, anyone have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
All right, I'll second it. And we are done.